Anyone who has ever entered a very tight-knit scene is probably familiar with the locals-only vibe you can get from such an insular setting. For Williams Grove, the Pennsylvania posse plays that role, in which all the outsiders looking in must break through their impenetrable barrier. Will our Pennsylvania locals of the league have a leg up today because of that? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 5 of the Bootleg Racing League's Dirt Street Stock Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Williams Grove Speedway is one of the more unique track layouts in dirt oval racing. To get a better look at it, let's head to our track guide.
Home of the Pennsylvania Posse, Williams Grove has been a force on many a dirt series calendar since the 1940s. This half-mile clay oval has hosted so many of the legendary dirt crowd, it's probably easier to find out who hasn't ran here. While the turns may be lightly banked, they are wide, allowing a good run onto the long straights. From World of Outlaws sprints that can hit 160 miles an hour on those straights to late models doing close to 100 to 120. Just watch out for the old Armco barriers that have breaks in them that can ruin your day quickly. Williams Grove will many times host 2 nights of racing during the summer weeks. Several classes of sprint cars, late models, street stocks, Silver Crown midgets, and modifieds will scream around here with those drivers looking for that chance to move up to the big leagues. And they have that chance to be seen in front of them as the World of Outlaws, late models, and sprint cars make stops here. Dirt car, late models, and USAC all come around. Williams Grove can be a gateway to a career for an aspiring dirt competitor. Welcome to Williams Grove, Pennsylvania.
Well, it's somewhat appropriate that we're running stock cars here today because even though the sprint cars are probably more well known around here, DJ, it's sort of like the Martinsville of dirt racing.
It really is. It certainly does contain that sort of tight, narrow confine that you expect from Martinsville. And these street stocks, it's going to be a handful to get them around these corners. Now, there is a bit of banking around here, like you see there on your screen, about 6 to 12 degrees, depending on how far up the track you get. But the truth of the matter is these corners are very, very wide. And the time you gain by trying to go up onto that banking and really ride that top end, it doesn't really help you. And so what these drivers are going to have to do is really look to the middle line as the way to get around here tonight, especially as the track starts to slick in and rubber in. This, I think, more than any other track that we've been to this year, is going to be about reading the conditions on the dirt in front of you and finding that little bit of moisture. Getting these cars slowed is going to be tricky, but the biggest thing that they've got to do is try to get the power down as early as possible because, Joe, we've seen time and time again that it's all about the corner exits and a way to make up some room.
These are not exactly nimble machines, so certainly will require drivers to try and carry that momentum as best they can. But let's take a look at our points here today. And up at the top with 4 wins and 4 rounds, Brandon Proudfoot, is well ahead of the next nearest driver, J.R. Shepard. Morton, Dave, and Davis are very tight in a fight between 3rd and 4th, and then Billy Northcutt rounds out our top 5. Sadly for our drivers, when I asked about if any of our Pennsylvania locals will have an advantage, the only Pennsylvania local is Brandon Proudfoot. Let's go over the race details, and DJ, what do we got in store for us?
Well, as you said, this is round 5 of 11 here in the BRL Dirt Street Stock Series. We are racing those big, heavy tanks of dirt street stocks. This is a heat race format tonight, and the way that is going to work is that everybody will be able to go out and have a qualifying where they put down their fastest time. That will determine the order for the heats tonight. In those heats, the top 3 from the heat will automatically qualify for the A main. Everyone else will run in the B main, the Consi. but a maximum of 24 drivers will advance to the A main, as we're currently sitting on 14 drivers in the session. Everybody will be in that A main at the end of the night. That A main will be 30 laps. The only time cautions will be called is during that final race. And the other thing to keep in mind, Joe, is there is no track reset. So what you see is what you get. The track is going to rubber in progressively more and more throughout the night.
And with it being very one line into these corners, I suspect it's going to get slick very quickly. In fact, you can already see a slicked up line starting to form down to the inside as we ride on board with Brandon Proudfoot. This is just the warm-up currently. Brandon running it a little bit up high, up into the marbles and whatnot, and then ducking it down low, looking to get that long shot. And this really gives you a sense of how long these straightaways are. Just nothing like what we've gone to at any point so far this season.
Certainly not. This, I think, more than almost any other track we go to on the dirt scene on iRacing is really more akin to paved oval racing on the short tracks. Those longer straightaways and tight turns. And you can see there riding on board with Brandon just how much speed you lose mid-corner as we now watch Billy Northcutt there in the 00 working his way underneath the famed bridge at Williams Grove.
We've got a beautiful sunset as well that's going to take us into the first few heat races as we wait for the last 3 minutes to wrap up in the warm-up. Billy Northcutt still in third. Chris Davis has been faring well here today. The number 7 is currently up in second on the timesheets. However, I do believe he was one of the first ones here and out on the track, so that may have helped him somewhat. Even still, watch out for that black and yellow car and see what he can do. Meanwhile, Robbie Robinson, speaking of a nice golden sunset, look at those beautiful 56 numbers on that car. That will certainly look pretty under the lights as we progress on through this evening. Now, the thing that I wonder about, and I've actually been caught out by this myself, is if once we get to the backstretch here with the 56, there's an opening on the outside of the track. Now, I have clipped this. I'm hoping they're better drivers than me here, DJ, but what do you think the danger is?
Well, it's really one of those things that it catches you out if you're not paying attention. And the easiest way to not pay attention is if you're in a side-by-side battle coming out of turn 2. So I think, sadly, it is a distinct possibility. You're looking down and you're inside trying to see if you can cover somebody off, and you don't realize just how far up the track your car is drifting. So we could see something very similar to what we saw at Weed Sport, a big, spectacular hit on the front end there if these drivers don't have perfect spatial awareness. There you see that gap you were talking about.
Hopefully nobody has to suffer the embarrassment that I did when I raced these cars here. Robinson continuing to cycle around, has got a lot of laps in here in practice, already up to 36, which is almost a full feature race. We watch from Davis's perspective as he pulls in behind Robinson. Certainly looks like the light can be a little bit blinding, and there is an easy mistake to make as well, as he just cuts it in a little too hard into 3 and 4 and decides to abandon that lap eventually.
Well, and you saw there, Joe, just how much counter steering he was having to put in the car to get it to rotate around these corners. It's not really like a traditional dirt track in that sense, where you are able to really juice on the throttle and keep it rotating. There is a lot more steering lock that you need to do to get this car to pivot around the corner as compared to the normal throttle control, which is required at some of the more circular dirt ovals here on iRacing.
Just a few seconds left, and we'll head on over to qualifying here. This evening, despite all the beautiful sun shining, it's actually a very cool track today. In fact, one of the coolest dirt tracks I've seen in a while at 66 degrees Fahrenheit. So hopefully that means it'll retain moisture very, very well tonight. And there's the checkered flag. So let's send them out for the qualifying and see who is going to line up where among these 16 cars here this evening.
Well, and Joe, I think especially during qualifying, running that sort of mid-line is going to be the best line. During the race, if you're able to get the car down to that low, narrow strip of dirt, that may be the good line to run. But during qualifying, I feel like the mid-line, momentum line, let's call it, is going to be the way to go as we watch Chris Davis starting his flying lap out of turn 3 and 4.
Let's see if the 7 can repeat his performance in the warm-up. He gets 4 laps to try and put his quickest time in. Shuts it down into a 1 and 2 as we ride on board, looking over the hood of the number 7, and it's on down the backstretch. Seems to like the line that you were talking about, through the middle, cutting down at the exit, trying to diamond off the corner. Definitely using the slicked up line, though. Let's see how well that'll work.
Well, Joe, if you watch the way he's doing it, where he's placing the car in the slick line may actually help him. That left front tire is gripping down onto the moist dirt, the undisturbed dirt, and he's letting the rear tires spin over that slicked up line, and that's a good way to increase that rotation, and it's clearly working for Davis as he currently sits on provisional pole.
Indeed, he's going to come around for his second lap. Can he go quicker than a 25.509? No, he cannot. What about Brandon Proudfoot? As I mentioned, the only Pennsylvania driver here in the group, and he's already quick, so the home crowd advantage is not going to be a good sign for everybody else. As, I guess that was an out lap for him because he's just now continuing around without a time on the board. So, is he representing for the Pennsylvania posse today? Or is the 22 going to embarrass himself in front of the virtual crowd? He comes around 3 and 4, running a slightly different line from what we saw on Davis. Does he know something that the others don't? A 25.318 is going to put him easily ahead of Billy Northcutt, who has pipped Davis to the front.
And you saw as we rode on board there just how much momentum he was carrying into the corner. It looks like he was physically throwing the car to make the turn to get around there. You can just really good sense of car control from Brandon Proudfoot, trying to maximize that momentum around the high side. He's going to come across the line here again. Not able to go faster, but a still very consistent time. You see everything he's having to throw in there.
Ron Snyder, in the meantime, is going to come on in after 2 laps. Now, he can come back out, but he'll only get one of the 2 remaining laps, as the other one will count as an out lap for him. Chris Hazlip, in the meantime, down and across the line. He's already completed all 4 laps. His first one was his quickest, interestingly, at a 25.8. Proudfoot is going to take all 4 of his laps as he's still going. J.R. Shepard, in the meantime, has jumped up into 3rd. We're watching Austin Belke on the screen now in the 24.
And Belke trying to build on a good run here. Proudfoot, though, clearly the car to beat. There he's not able to improve. Jason Best, though, now going to cross the line. Steven Spees coming in barely off of his time. Steven's back in 6th right now.
So J.R. Shepard gets 2 final flying laps. So far, it seems like a lot of drivers are hitting their quickest on the very first one. Seems like too much of the track just getting worn away out here. Let's see if he can go higher than row 2, if he can try and bump Northcutt down or even topple Brandon Proudfoot. It's not going to be this time. A 25.565, about a 10th off of his best.
Well, and as this track continues to rubber in, the areas to gain speed are going to continue to diminish, but that's not diminishing J.R. Shepard's tenacity here. He's riding out on that high line, really letting the momentum carry the car around the corner, pushing that right rear tire up against the cushion there. He's going to push to the line, but unable to improve.
Still went south, unfortunately. A 25.729. That's going to be the last of our qualifiers. So we wait for 30 more seconds to elapse, and then we'll get to the first heat of the day. Again, they will be running 6 laps in each of these heats, and the top 3 will advance to the feature automatically, though everyone will make it to the finale. It is a matter of where you will be gridded up and how many races you have to do to get there in the end. Brandon Proudfoot is clearly putting that local knowledge to good use. You know, I heard they actually have the crowds cheering now and all kinds of cool ambient noise that they added. I noticed that they picked up after Proudfoot took his 4th lap. I wonder if iRacing actually has gone to the effort of taking the local club into account. Maybe they cheer louder when one of their local boys does well.
I don't know if that's true, but I'll have to go out and run Fontana a couple times and see if the California Club can give me a nice little shout out.
There we go. Well, yeah, let's do a test on her. Maybe somebody from the Peanut Gallery knows. In the meantime, we've got our first grid for the day. It is Brandon Proudfoot starting on the pole, and Chris Davis starting in 2nd. Then Robbie Robinson is in 3rd, rounding out the first half of the field.
John Wilson's going to line up to the outside of Robbie Robinson, followed by Matt Shinosky and Chris Hazlip to bring up the 3rd row of this first heat.
Now, am I mistaken? Has it been a while since we've seen Matt Shinosky out here in this series? Don't think we've seen him in a minute, so glad to see that car return. There you see as the 94 is going to be lining up on the last row of the grid. Like those beautiful chrome rims that he's put on it. They're not going to stay chrome for long, though, once we start slinging some mud out here today. 2 pace laps, and then we run for 6 laps to try and sort out the top 3, and everybody else gets sent down to the consolation race today. How much passing do you think we'll actually get to see, or is it going to be pretty tough today?
Well, that was going to be my next point, Joe. I think passing is going to be at a premium here, so I would not be surprised if you see a little bit more sort of dog fighting in these heat races, really trying to get as high up as you can. Normally we see these guys, if they're in the top 3, they just kind of sit back, take it easy, happy to advance to the A main. But if I'm one of these drivers and I've got a chance to take 2nd away from somebody, I'm going to do it because I want to be as far to the front of that starting A main grid as humanly possible.
As we ride on board with our 2nd place starter, Chris Davis, looking out through the front of the car, waiting for that pace truck to leave them be and let them go on their way. It's actually going to duck off quite early. If you haven't been paying attention, the entry to pit lane on the inside of the track comes very quickly here in turn 3. So they'll give control to Proudfoot. Let's see what he does. Does he wait for it? No, he is on it. 22 is away. Green flag is out here at Williams Grove. In fact, they get single file quite quickly as they come down to turn 1, but he's going to try and send a slider as the 7 goes low compared to the 22 going high. Doesn't quite work, but it gets him near.
And both cars getting a little squirrely off the line there. Proudfoot running high, Davis running low. Davis going back down to the low side, trying to get that left front tire down onto the grip of good dirt. It is marginally working for him here. He is able to stay level with Brandon Proudfoot through lap 1.
Once again, low to high. Proudfoot taking the cushion line. And as he comes off, just can't seem like the 7 has got enough momentum. Right in behind them as we ride on board with Davis, Wilson and Robinson are squabbling for that transfer position. Off the corner, you can see both fights on your screen.
Yeah, really good battle here. This was got by John Wilson, who's moved up a position. He lost out at the start and then threw a very good slider coming in through turns 1 and 2. As you see Proudfoot setting the fastest lap of the race, really starting to put the middle down and yapping Chris Davis.
Ooh, we went way high that time. He was all up into the cushion. Didn't cost him too much. Davis can't seem to capitalize, and they've settled out behind as well with Wilson ahead of Robinson. Halfway through the race at this point, and it's been pretty clean.
Yeah, it's been very clean here. Everybody giving each other very good berths as we continue to watch Brandon Proudfoot taking that high line. Chris Davis ran a modified slider line through 1 and 2 and is going to do the same thing again coming out of turn 4. I think he's able to be a little bit more determined with that, as now he's going to go back up to the high side trying to follow in the tire tracks of Brandon Proudfoot.
Obviously, the low line not working for him, at least for the time being. Maybe that will change as this event progresses on. We're going to get the white flag this time by monkey see, monkey do for Chris Davis, although he still comes off far more shallow than Brandon Proudfoot.
Yeah, it's something we're seeing from a lot of these drivers up and down the field is just mid-corner they are losing absolutely all momentum. Davis able to gather it up much better there, but that gap is still about 3 car lengths up to your leader of Brandon Proudfoot as he makes his way through turns 3 and 4 for the last time.
Ooh, is this another slider attempt? The 7's trying it, and he's almost there, but he doesn't have the speed. So up at the front, Proudfoot is going to take the heat win as Davis comes in second, and Wilson will be the last transfer through to the A-main. Robinson, Shinosky, and Hazlip will be sent to the consolation race as we now head off to our second heat of the day. Billy Northcutt will be starting at the top of this 5-car field with Ron Schneider in second and Jason Best in third.
In fourth will be Joe Segala, and leading up the back of the pack will be Gary Clinton in that 5th place.
So slightly smaller field here, but still should be a lot of fun out here today as we wait for the pace truck to lead them off. We do have all 5 out there. There we go. And Billy Northcutt wasn't quite quick enough to snag the fastest qualifying time away from Proudfoot. Still has a good chance to try and take a heat win today. So it seems like you can get close, but not necessarily through from what we saw in that first heat race.
Yeah, Chris Davis just really struggling to get anything on Brandon Proudfoot, but I think that sort of modified slider line that we saw him develop over the course of the race, that very well may be the way to go on how to get things done.
Again, we'll get 2 pace laps, and then we will take off. And remember, if you're new to dirt racing, the line will not well, if you're new to iRacing on dirt racing, rather, the line will not be refreshed, essentially, from heat to heat or even during any of this evening's event. What gets worn in from the prior heat still carries over into this heat. So they now get to experience the track as it was left from the prior cars, which means it's not going to be like they ran on it during the qualifying. And so they will have to be that little bit more careful to make sure that they don't get caught out by how things have evolved.
No, they won't, but we watch Billy Northcutt here down on that low line. Proudfoot got on the pedal early. Let's see what Northcutt does.
That gets on just about the same time. Green flag is out, and this actually caught out Ron Schneider big time. Jason Best is up into second. Going to try and come underneath him as Schneider looks to pull a slider, but unfortunately it's not there. In fact, he's a little slow off the corner. The 6 of Clinton thinks about trying something, but he also wobbles. Joe Segala in the meantime, and all 3 of the back cars are going to come together. A little bit of contact between the 6 and the 29.
It looked like all 3 cars coming out of turn 2 just over-rotated ever so slightly, but this battle for the final transfer spot in P3 really starting to heat up. You see them fan out in, which frankly, a beautiful formation there, but now it looks like a little bit of momentum to Gary Clinton able to get a good run out of the corner. He is less than a car length behind the rear bumper of Ron Schneider.
First lap, he got into the back of the 29. This time, he's able to keep it clean behind him. Contact with the outside wall twice with Segala. That'll slow him up significantly. So now the fight is down between 2 for the last transfer spot.
And don't sleep on Ron Schneider making a move on Jason Best. He is very much closing up during the corners, but it looks like Best is able to get a little more momentum down the straightaway. We ride on board right now with Ron Schneider. You see him trying to hold down to that low line as much as possible, but it does cost him the momentum down the straightaways as you see Best starting to pull away there.
Down through 1 and 2. Here's Schneider's also pulling away from Gary Clinton. Just doesn't have the pace he did at the very start of this race. Down into 3 and 4. Still very different lines between Schneider and Best. Best riding up high. Interestingly, our leader going low, Northcutt, staying tucked into the Armco on the inside.
You know, a lot of times, Joe, that just comes down to drivers' preference and what they feel more comfortable with as the track evolves. We've heard Steven Spies at multiple points talk about that very thing as Gary Clinton has had a spin in the back, demoting him all the way back to 5th place.
No. Unfortunate, so it's going to give him an even harder time when he gets to the B main, which is coming soon, because we are getting the white flag as Northcutt continues to lead by about 1.2 seconds over Jason Best. But what a start from the 47. This is going to gift him a number of positions in the feature just by getting that one spot in the heat. Out of 3 and 4, the double aught of Billy Northcutt is going to take the win here in Williams Grove for heat number 2.
Good run from Northcutt, and you saw there as the race went along on those last 2 laps, started to move up to that high line a little bit. So heads up play there from him, starting to feel out the track, thinking ahead to what will come in the feature.
Best and Snyder advance on, and after them, Segala and Clinton will have to go to the B main. Now we get to heat number 3, last heat of the day. It is J.R. Shepard starting on that pole, Steven Spies in second, and Bobby Hayes running third.
Behind them will be Ryan Seneker and Austin Belke in the red number 4 to bring up the back of the field.
Okay, all 5 have planted themselves out there and should get going here momentarily. So we wait for the base truck to lead them off. Track temperature continues to plunge. It's already 64 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface of the dirt. So these cool Pennsylvania nights clearly giving them at least hopefully some good tackiness, even though it's getting slicked up significantly on quarter entry.
Exactly, and what that tackiness will really become apparent in is for guys ripping the high line. If they're running on the cushion, that means the cushion will become a little bit more impacted, a little bit harder, and it means that you'll be able to run that right rear tire up alongside it with a little bit more aggression and hopefully carry a little bit more momentum through the corner because you have a force pushing against you in that hard compacted cushion.
This has been some fun racing so far, even though they haven't been able to make passes very easily. It's been intense, the battles between drivers, trying desperately to get those spots. So what will we see on this one? And what can J.R. Shepard do as well? Can he come away with the victory? So far, both of our pole sitters have wound up winning the race, but it wasn't quite straightforward for the likes of Proudfoot, who had to fend off Chris Davis for the one before. It was pretty straightforward for Billy Northcutt, with no one close to him for the entire event. So, as they come around 3 and 4, both drivers prior went about the exact same time, and they're going to go at the same time again for J.R. Shepard, but he doesn't catch Spies napping. Looks like the 55 looking around the outside. Could he deny him the desired line? The 98 is going to send it in deep. The 55 goes for the undercut because of that. It's a drag race off the line down to 3 and 4. This time they switched around. The 55 on the inside, though, backs out.
Yeah, Spies checking up there a little bit. Didn't want to send the slider down through 3 and 4, but good respect from both drivers there, recognizing a slider getting thrown and how to do the undercut. Spies pokes his nose down to the inside ever so slightly and returns back up to that high line for the moment. He's ducking a little bit under Shepard, just trying to get a better run off the corner.
Sticking with him. He's going to make a battle out of this one as they come into 3 and 4 this time through. Can almost see him outside the passenger window as they slide the car sideways, but the momentum is just not there. Behind them and the final transfer spot, Bobby Hayes is unchallenged, but I'm sure he's eager to try and pick that up if in case our top 2 come together.
Very much so, and watching this, it looks like Steven Spies may have a little bit more speed than Shepard, and what that is doing is that's causing both of them to check up and allows Bobby Hayes to catch up to the both of them, and you saw there the graphic on your screen, Bobby Hayes setting the fastest lap of the race, so these 2 leaders have to be careful because that blue car of Bobby Hayes is closing in fast.
He's able to run whatever line he wants while the others are trying to have to work around each other. That might be helping. They're going to get 2 to go at the line. Ooh, and sending it down very early, the 55, trying to think of a slider maybe? No, he's just looking to try and tuck it down low. It actually works quite well, but he starts to fall back as they cross the line.
And that right there, Joe, is just a matter of these big, heavy cars not being able to maintain momentum. That's the danger in running down on the low side. And I think the best way to get a pass here for Steven Spies is going to be on a slider. I think just running a straight low line all the way across may not work well for him, but as close as he is not really able to get that car in front to throw a perfectly executed slider.
White flag waves for J.R. Shepard. He's resisted it thus far. Can the 98 keep it clean and manage to bring it home for a heat win? It'll be valuable points in trying to catch up to Brandon Proudfoot, who continues to stretch away from the 98. Still nothing doing for the 55. One more try at the low line. Is it gonna be there? He looks for it, and he's got really good grip, but it's just not enough. Less than a car length between them, but the 98 takes the win in the third heat. Spies and Hayes advance as Belke and Seneker will go to the B main.
And Joe, very quickly, as you saw that, that's something that I think is going to really play into contention when we get to these main event races, and that is how far down the straightaway that finish line is. It's about halfway down, and that's a long drag out of turn 4. So you really have to think about momentum when we get into the final lap and a chase to the flag. It's something that these drivers are going to have in the back of their heads.
It's a good point. Curious to see how that'll play out. Well, in the meantime, our grid for the consolation race is Robbie Robinson starting at the top with Joe Segala to his outside. Austin Belke will start third, and Shinoski will begin from fourth.
Gary Clinton will start out in fifth, followed by Ryan Seneker and Chris Hazlett behind them, but it looks like Clinton is not currently on the grid right now.
So we're down to 6 drivers instead here for this consolation race. Again, everybody will advance to the feature, but this will set their starting positions, and it looks like track position is critical here at Williams Grove tonight.
Well, and it's not... Sorry, Joe. I was just going to say, it's not just getting ahead and being at the front end of the field, but you've seen how narrow these lines are, but despite how wide the corner is. And so the farther you are up the field, the less chance you're going to have cars spinning in front of you. So that's going to be something playing on drivers' minds in this B main.
Now, we haven't seen a whole lot of incidents so far either. It's been relatively clean. I think Clinton's spin is the only one I can really recall that maybe would have brought out the caution. So will it be a straight green flag run from beginning to end, or will we get just a couple? Will it be a whole bunch of them as everybody's just a little too anxious to try and make up positions? Robinson, in the meantime, is going to want to try and win this consolation to try and give himself the best starting spot he can in the feature. And he is away. Green flag is out for the 56 for the consolation race. Into second, Segala manages to keep from being overtaken by Matt Shinoski behind him.
And Shinoski putting on a good show there. You saw Robbie Robinson all starting on the outside. Leader does have lane choice in this series. The top 3 in single file. Austin Belke thought about challenging there for a minute, but falls back on the way. But looks like Robbie Robinson's not going to have this race to himself. Joe Segala and Matt Shinoski putting on a heck of a fight.
And Robinson up at the front with Segala. Oh, tips into him. He's going to turn him around. He tries to catch the car. He just gets it, but Segala is your new leader. A little bit of the chrome horn to take that top spot away. A little bit of the chrome horn, and I have to think just a little bit of inability to fully slow these cars on dirt coming around quick corners like that. Not necessarily a fault there of Joe Segala. That sort of thing just happens. But Segala, once again, not the only one leading this race. That's Matt Shinoski right behind him. Matt setting the fastest lap on the last time by. And that was immediately after Segala set the fastest lap of the race. So he was trying to make good use of that clear air in front of him. Remember, this is a slightly longer event here at 10 laps. Shinoski looking a little bit down low, but finding that those tight corners just too much to try and keep the speed up. 94 holds to the rear bumper of the 81, looking for some sort of mistake or opening. And Shinoski keeps going to that high line, maybe just trying to go down a little bit more than Joe Segala, but that's really costing him. I think checking up like that did not work. But Robbie Robinson starting to fight his way back through the field. At the spin, you can see there in the back of the screen, throwing a great slide job on Austin Belke to move himself up to third place. Desperately wants to get back up to the front. It's going to be a little bit harder with Shinosky, and I'm sure even harder with Segala, who certainly seems quick today as they come off of 1 and 2. Belke thought about trying to come back at him, but the over-under did not work. Meanwhile, down into 3 and 4, and my goodness, Robinson looks like he is gaining time hand over fist on Matt Shinosky.
Really is. Robbie Robinson has this car working well. It makes you think about what could have been had he not had that contact with Joe Segala that sent him spinning around. But gap relatively starting to stabilize here on those last 2 corners. Looks like they are not really pulling in all that tight. By my calculations, it's about a second and a half between the second and third place driver.
Oh, Shinosky hits the outside wall and slams it a second time. Is the car damaged, or is it okay? It didn't cost him too much in the way of momentum, it seems. Robinson's still trying to chase him down. The 94 is going to live to fight another day. He can't do that too many times, though.
No, I mean, these cars are built like tanks, and we've seen it time and time again that they take a lick and just almost keep back running stronger. But the momentum that Shinosky lost, well, not a lot, was able to allow Robinson to think about sending a slide job in that last corner. Now you see Robbie Robinson starting to think about different lines, running a slide job, just trying to find anything on Matt Shinosky as they'll come to the line with 2 to go.
Down into 3 and 4. At this point, as we ride on board with Robinson, he's definitely pulling a slightly different line from those in front of him, seeing if it just gives him anything more. He needs some big gains here in these final couple laps. Thankfully, he's well clear of Austin Belke, so he doesn't have to worry about an attack from behind. But the way things are going, I think Robbie is only going to get 3rd at best here in the consolation.
Yeah, I think unless Matt Shinosky makes another mistake like we saw him have in turn 4 a couple of laps ago, that 2nd place will be his and his alone. The leaders have now taken the white flag. Joe Segala working his way around one last time.
Joe Segala may have gotten it with a little bit of questionable contact, but rubbin's racing, as they say. We'll see what the stewards have to say about it. Regardless, on track, the 81 is going to be your victor here in the consolation race.
Great run there from Joe Segala, Matt Shinosky, and Robbie Robinson rounding up your podium here in the B main.
After that, Belke, Seneca, and Hazlip are the last 6, with Clinton unfortunately not taking part, it seems, which will take us to the warm-up here. Again, drivers will have about 5 minutes before we go to the feature race, which will be 30 laps here today. Significantly longer race than what we just witnessed. So that was a valuable chance for everybody to get some information, some data for the main race. I mean, from what you're watching from the outside, DJ, what's your big takeaway?
My big takeaway from all of this is just how tricky it is to get a pass done. It really looks like the only possible way to do it is on that slider line. That outside line just has too much momentum, Joe. There's too much speed that you can carry out of the corner. You may be able to get a nose ahead driving the pure low line all the way through, but other than that, it just does not look like it's working out tonight.
Well, that'll make life difficult for sure. And it's certainly borne itself out. One of the main passes that we've seen was moving somebody. And a few of the drivers have in the past said they're not really interested in racing like that. They don't like to try and shove someone out of the way. They want to get it clean. So will they have to sort of throw that out the window and decide to just give a little bit of a nudge to get themselves the racing space they need to make an overtake?
It'll be something to check out, Joe. You know, there's always a lot of great respect in any of the BRL series. They like to pride themselves on racing clean. Nobody really likes to have yellows. Feels a bit artificial to bunch everything up. But one of the difficult things about that sort of mentality is when you're racing dirt, like you saw in that B main accident. Sometimes what happens is that there's a little mistake from the driver in front of you that slows them up. And because these cars are so heavy and it takes such a monumental effort to get them slowed and sped back up again, you just can't get on that left pedal fast enough in order to prevent the accident. So sometimes that crone horn does come into play a little bit, albeit unintentionally.
So we ride on board with Brandon Proudfoot. I seem to recall last week when we asked him about it, he did say that he considers this his home track. And I think he said it was, about an hour's drive from him to get here, or something of that nature. He certainly seems to be thriving here today, and this will probably be the most meaningful win if he can bring it home from this top spot. So we take a look at the number 7 in the meantime, Chris Davis, who's been the one closest to try and give him a fight. But let's not forget about Billy Northcutt, who qualified in second. So Northcutt theoretically could be even closer than Davis, although Davis just went second in the warm-up.
Yeah, and that really starts to come into how the track is evolving and how well the drivers are able to read that out here as it goes along. And what's going to be very interesting to think about, we saw the speed and the pace that Chris Davis had in that last round. Well, Joe, here's the caveat. Chris is going to be starting in P4. He will not start in second. He'll be starting back, so he's going to have to get by a couple of folks in order to actually get a challenge to Brandon Proudfoot. That may delay him just long enough to put this race clearly in Proudfoot's perspective.
We continue to ride on board with Northcutt, the double aught, riding it through 1 and 2. Some more of those white tires like we saw last week at when we were at Kokomo that you can trip over, and there's a few more of them as well on the entry into 3 and 4. So you do have to be somewhat careful on those, although it seems like the natural line that most of the drivers want to take is not quite close enough that it is nearly as big of a danger as is that Robinson spinning around there? I think that was Wilson, actually. That was a 75.
Yeah, a lot of cars with that white hood on there throws us off, but John able to get back underway, currently running in 7th in this practice session. But we're going to have to see what these guys do. As we said, this is a lot of reconnaissance for them, trying to read the track, read what's going to happen, read what is going on. And with 20 seconds to go, when this lights up, these drivers are going to have to be very, very careful, because this track will slick in even more than it is now very quickly.
That's right, with all 16 cars. And actually, as I say that, I don't think we'll get all 16. We know that Clinton had disappeared for a moment. It does look like he's still in the session, but I don't see Shinosky or Belke out there right now. It could just be that they don't want to put more laps in. We'll have to keep a watch out. So we now grid up for the feature race. Brandon Proudfoot will be starting on the pole with Billy Northcutt starting in second. J.R. Shepard on the inside of the second row will be flanked by Chris Davis in fourth. Jason Best, P5, will then have Steven Spees to his outside in sixth. And John Wilson, starting in seventh. Ron Snyder will be P8. Bobby Hayes in ninth, and Joe Segala rounds out your top 10.
Matt Shinosky is going to be lining up in P11, followed by Robbie Robinson in P12. Austin Belke and Ryan Seneca will be making up the row behind them and then bringing out the back of the field. If they are able, and it does look like they are able to get out here, it'll be Chris Hazlett and Gary Clinton.
All right, taking off for 2 pace laps with a lot more cars out there. That also ups the likelihood of a caution. And you can see the lights now very much on and shining on the circuit. One of the curious things about this track that I've always noticed is, and another of those things that I think just goes to the incredible detail that iRacing puts into these circuits, is I think they even have the luminescence of these lights down to what they would be in real life, because they look very yellow compared to other circuits.
They do, and one of the other things that is really great about the way iRacing has modeled this is that these lights aren't perfect. They're not like it completely covers the track. You can see these cars coming in and out of shadow ever so slightly. It's kind of like watching the IMSA cars at Daytona when they run around the bankings. And that makes it a little bit difficult for these drivers to judge perspective. It just makes it that much harder. So we'll have to keep an eye out as that perspective shift may change as it gets a hair darker here.
Yeah, sun's just about completely down at this point as they ride under the bridge and are getting ready to get going here in a moment. The pace truck will release Brandon Proudfoot. Last time he had to deal with a lot of hassle in the heat race. Will Northcutt offer the same sort of challenge? Waiting on it, and there we go. Green flag is out as Proudfoot accelerates away. A challenge to the inside on Northcutt as J.R. Shepard's going to try to use that inside line, but he's going to get a big shove. That was the 7 getting into him. He straightens out the car, and yet he still gets a better run than Northcutt up to his high side.
He does. Chris Davis falling like a stone all the way back to 5th place here, but that battle for P2 really starting to shape up. Northcutt to the outside, Shepard down low, Spees following up behind Northcutt, and Chris Davis running a slider line, trying to get right up alongside Steven Spees. He does. They drag race across the line.
My goodness, all this battling for second between 4 different cars is allowing Proudfoot almost a second gap, and we're barely into lap 2. Getting up to the inside now, J.R. Shepard is clear and into second place. A big touch between Northcutt and Davis. They're going to actually bang doors. Davis almost shoved to the inside Armco, but he finds a space through. That might actually get him 3rd.
It looks like it at least does across the line. That's very aggressive driving from both Northcutt there and Davis, both trying to pinch each other high and low respectively. But advantage is going to go to Chris Davis up his way into 3rd, 1 position up from where he started. He's having a good race now, sets his eyes on J.R. Shepard, and that gap up to Brandon Proudfoot normalized at about a 2nd.
Little slap into the outside wall on the exit of 4 for Davis. Behind him, unfortunately, the driver finding out that passing is possible is Billy Northcutt, as he's lost 2 positions since the beginning of this race, and Spees is not too far behind him, so that could also mean another one gone if he is not careful. Coming through 3 and 4 and on the front stretch one more time. Chris Davis has got the bit between his teeth. Now that he has cleared Northcutt, he is all over the back of the 98, and he's even going to give him a little touch. Oh, he almost gets into the tires.
Chris Davis just on an absolute run of car control, right on board with Billy Northcutt, now starting to challenge. Davis goes up to the inside. These are the same 2 that got together, and it looks like Northcutt remembers that, keeps it low, backs out of it. Davis goes for a slide job line. They're going to drag race now down the main straightaway, but Davis is going to have the momentum. Northcutt took the faster line through the corner. They're going to do the same thing through 1 and 2.
Davis once again sending it way out to the outside. Gets a good launch, but this time he's not fully alongside the double lot. Billy Northcutt still defending hard, covering that inside line, is behind them watching in the 55. Steven Spees hopes to pick up the pieces. He can't quite get into it. Better run off the corner for Chris Davis. Looks to get underneath the double lot. Doesn't quite work out, but look at him start to gain around the apex of 1 and 2. He's going to push him off to the side yet again, and they're going to go 3 wide down to 3 and 4. I don't think this is going to work out well. Sending it way too hard. The 7 drifts all the way up to the Armco. Just keeps from running into it. And what did I say about Steven Spees? He does indeed pick up the pieces.
He does indeed, and they're going to continue to go 3 wide as they cross the timing and scoring line. Very close in between the 2 cars. Looks like Northcutt and Spees getting into each other ever so slightly. Spees tried to touch the tail end as it works his way around the car, but Davis able to keep the advantage in the momentum down the backstretch.
Another position lost for Billy Northcutt. He is down to 5th now. Spees manages to work up to 4th, and Davis holds on to that 3rd place. This has done a lot for their chances to get to 2nd, though. It is 2 seconds up to J.R. Shepard in P2. Shepard is focused forwards. He's trying to run down Proudfoot, who is 1.7 ahead, still side by side. Down between Davis and Spees, though.
Yeah, and Steven Speed's just trying to calculate out his opponent here. Looks like the low line is the preferred line for these drivers through most of the race. Speed pokes his nose very low. I think a little bit of contact there between him and the yellow number 7, but Speed's is going to fall back into line here as they go through 1 and 2. Speed's trying to poke his nose down there, force Davis to go wide. Davis does indeed go a little bit wide off the corner, but he's going to keep the momentum. Speed's nose able to poke in ever so slightly, but they're going to fall back to single file.
My goodness, the way these cars are just tippy-toeing around the bottom line as much as they can. Almost once again gets into the 7, but Spees knows better. He holds it back through 3 and 4 and makes sure that he doesn't turn around the yellow and black machine. Down through 1 and 2 once again. He can still get that nose in. Coming off the corner, he starts to lose a little bit of it. He's going to try and keep it down to the inside, but the 7 chops him off.
He does, but I think as long as Steven Spees can just keep his nose in there and prevent Chris Davis from completely taking the line he wants to, it's going to do the best that he can. Davis is unable to really challenge on the line. Now, Spees goes for a higher line, try to keep momentum into the corner to get maximum drive off of the corner. It works. That's the closest we've seen him on corner exit, but he falls back. Davis back to having momentum. Spees forced to fall in line.
This has been a fantastic battle. And whoa, gaining tons of time mid-corner. Look at that from the 55. This is the best launch we've seen from him yet. Coming down the front stretch, he's almost fully alongside him. He keeps it down low as the 7 decides to abandon that low line, go up high, and it has bit him. He falls back as Spees moves up into 3rd.
Absolutely clinical from Steven Spees. A little bit of contact there between the two. Davis trying to fight back, almost gets into the side of him. But what Spees did there going into 1 and 2 is he forced Davis on a higher line, forced him up into that rubber track that we talked about, Joe, and that prevented him from getting any sort of drive off of the line. Spees, however, able to get the left tires down into that moist part of dirt and just power off the line. And he's able to grow a little bit of a gap down the backstretch, about 1 car length.
It amazes me, DJ, the nature of this track and its unique shape. It's almost like watching a chess game on dirt. The way he had to plan that out and work that out over multiple laps. A little smack into the outside wall from Davis, but he's able to keep going. Oh, we got a caution. That's Clinton, I think, involved in that one. The 6 is very slow outside of turn 3.
Oh, and big damage to the front of that car.
Oh, I think he's going to catch one of the white tires that I talked about.
Back to check out the GSRC replay here, riding on board with Gary Clinton. You see him going down the backstretch under the bridge, ducks it down low. Oh, he clipped the inside Armco there, Joe.
And Hazlip, that's Hazlip just narrowly avoiding him on that run through. Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Just tears up the front. And there's Hazlip, who sees it coming and says, oh, no. Gotta get out of that. The 73 somehow narrowly avoids disaster. Clinton, in the meantime, is taking repairs. We're down to 14 cars still running. We've lost Belkey earlier in the race. I'm not exactly sure why he had to come into the pits. We'll try and get some information on that later.
Well, Joe, so here are 2 things now that we get ready to do a restart here. Number 1, Brandon Proudfoot will have lane choice in where he wants to go. We've seen him running the low line for most of the race, so I have to imagine he's going to stick to the low line, but he could surprise us. Now, what else this is going to do is that it's going to put J.R. Shepard right to his outside, and Steven Spees and Chris Davis are going to be side by side as well. Spees was trying to pull in Shepard as much as possible, but the battle with Davis was preventing him. So will we see Spees with that good speed maybe be able to make a battle for second here?
It's a good question, as our leader takes the inside line, it appears. Now the lights are off on the base truck. So he likes that inside line. Interesting how you talked about the midline was the place to be, and then as the race has gone on, it's gone to the inside line. It's almost the reverse of what we typically see here at most dirt tracks, where the line climbs and climbs all the way to the outside.
Exactly. And Joe, you know, that was my prediction going into it based on what we've seen off the heats, but there's a reason why I'm in the booth and not one of these cars. These guys clearly have to read the track better than I can.
Those that can't do blabbermouth. So as we get the green flag, J.R. Shepard not able to get the jump on the 22. He's going to fall back into second place. Spees, who's been greedy lately, is going to try to get to the inside of the 98. Can he manage to get one more even? We're going to have another caution, I think, as unfortunately for Chris Davis, he is involved.
Looks like Davis got a little bit of contact behind and then ran into the side of John Wilson. You can see the damage there on Davis's car. We're going to jump back to replay here to check this out. Now, this is the restart right there. Davis in that yellow number 7. Now, he's going to go on the outside of turn 1. I think that's Jason Best behind him. Looks like, yeah, he had started to go. Best tags up on him, and he collects Wilson down to the inside. Wilson not only hitting the tire, but climbing over it.
In fact, if we get a shot of Wilson after the incident, he beaches himself, this is an impressive feat. the telephone pole, unfortunately, not wanting to cooperate with our camera angles here. Here we go. The 75 having the most unlucky of nights. Just the wrong place. Couldn't have seen that one coming. And then look at that. The rear of the car is parked on the tire, and the front, I think, is propped up on the, on the Armco. Look at that. How did he manage that?
I don't think we could do that again if we tried, Joe. I've never seen that before.
Neither have I. Just utterly bizarre. He actually had to take a tow because of it. He should be able to get back out and running once again, but just a frustrating night, unfortunately, for the poor John Wilson. All
yeah,
right,
that is not how you want to see it end up for a driver like John who's been putting in some good times.
Are we going double file this time? I think we might be. At least it looks like Spees is ready to go. Yes, indeed. Okay, inside once again for Proudfoot. He liked that inside line. He used it to great effect in the first 2 corners he was able to run before we saw another yellow thrown. So again, he repeat that.
Well, and we saw Steven Spees have a good run last time out, so is this the time that Brandon Proudfoot gets a challenge? We'll have to see.
All right, as they come through 3 and 4, the 22 waiting on it. And now he goes. Green flag is out here at Williams Grove. It's a decent start for the 22. The 55, is he going to cover the inside once again? Not quite. Oh, and once more, the 7 is in too hot. He's going to get tipped again. And another caution, this time Davis, Robinson, and Best. And I think Best was in the last one, too.
He was. I think Chris Davis and Jason Best just have a magnet tied to him here at this point. As we're going to take a look at the replay, that is Davis in the 7. That is Segala in the 81 behind him. So let's watch Chris Davis here. He's going to dive it into the corner. Once again, gets a little hot with J.R. Shepard and just runs it into the back. So that's Segala, that's Robinson, Hazlip, and Best all getting tangled up.
And I think that was Seneca in the 61 making that narrow escape.
I think it was, but right on board with Brian Seneca here.
No, it was whoever was in front of him there. Someone was I guess that was Robinson, who just, that was Segala. That was Segala in the 81, who got tipped sideways, almost looked like he was going to get involved in it, and then suddenly was able to just creep his way out of it. Here we go.
So we watch Joe here. Joe's going to get tagged. Yeah, just a little bit of a punch there for Joe. And able to get going back around. No damage, it looks like, to that car. So lucky day indeed for Joe Segala.
It looks like he was heading for it, and Robinson actually tipped the front of his car back in the right direction, and off he went. So some days you'd rather be lucky than good. And Segala is going to retain 8th place with that. Okay, so we can't get through the first 2 corners now that we've got cautions flying. We're towards the end of the race. I think we are able to get one more caution, and then unfortunately, after that, we won't have any time for another one. Let's see if they can keep it clean and take this to a green flag finish.
Indeed, that's what all these drivers want to see. You always want to finish under green. Brandon Proudfoot again taking the low line. Steven Spees to his outside. J.R. Shepard behind him, and Billy Northcutt lining up in P4.
22 has got these restarts down. So can Spies really have a realistic chance? I doubt it. They're going to be 4 to go as we wait for the flag to fly. And it looks like accelerated away. The 22 takes the green. Oh, it's a challenge for third, though. That is Northcutt to the outside of J.R. Shepard. And Northcutt's going to go way around the outside, riding the rim. It might actually work for him because he's going to get good momentum.
He is indeed, and he's going to try to push it again, coming into the back there of Steven Spies. Spies goes down to the inside again, but he's forced under the midline. That little bit of contact, I think, sent him in a little hotter than he wanted to. J.R. Shepard now to the inside. Spies cuts off Billy Northcutt hard on the outside.
But it's not going to work out for Shepard. His momentum once again in favor of the double on. I think Northcutt's bringing that high line back in. It's working out decently, but he just keeps getting boxed in. The 55 covers him off every single time.
Well, and he may be able to try to go down to the low side, but J.R. Shepard sticking to his inside, preventing him from doing so. Spies once again blocks him off, and Shepard again boxing in Billy Northcutt, unable to do it. But now they've cleared J.R. Shepard as we come down here. 2 to go. It's now or never time for Billy Northcutt.
Despite all that fighting, they're holding right on the back of Proudfoot. Looks like he's not going to be able to get by Spies this time. Northcutt still running all the way up along the cushion, nearly brushing into the Armco. Can he get the run? Yes, he can. In fact, he's going to get all the way to the outside of the 55. Brilliant move with 2 to go. No, on the final lap, rather. The white flag is flown. Billy Northcutt looking at a P2 after things were looking dire and falling down many positions, but in front of it all, Brandon Proudfoot of the Pennsylvania Posse is going to take victory here today at Williams Grove. A win, 5 in a row for Brandon Proudfoot.
And Spies checked up at the line there, Joe.
Well, that is strange. And he wound up in 4th, I'm seeing? Unusual. I have to give incredible credit to Billy Northcutt, falling as far down as 5th place, somehow in the last restart, just climbing position after position. That was a masterclass. We're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back and bring you the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Welcome back to Williams Grove Speedway. This Pennsylvania track gave us some great excitement, but leading every lap of the way was Brandon Proudfoot, winning at his home course. I'm sure he is going to be ecstatic about that. Billy Northcutt, though, I think had the drive of the race today. He started in second and he finished in second, but if you didn't watch the race, you wouldn't realize how much hard work he had to do to get back to second as he fell down multiple positions early and made a stunner of a restart in the final set. J.R. Shepard was third, with Steven Spies finishing in fourth, but mysteriously dropping back at the end. We'll have to see if we can talk to him, find out what happened. Bobby Hayes was P5, with Ron Snyder in the sixth position, and Joe Segala finishing seventh. Robbie Robinson finishing eighth today, was followed by Chris Davis, who went way backwards, got involved in multiple incidents and finished ninth. Matt Chinoski rounded out your top 10.
Coming home in 11th after being part of two of those incidents was Jason Best, followed by Ryan Seneker and Chris Hazlip. Gary Clinton finished 14th, with John Wilson falling very, very unlucky between the Armco and the tires to finish 15th, and Austin Belkey rounding out your field in 16th.
So we have our winner ready to talk to us, Brandon Proudfoot, who has won on home soil here today. Brandon, congratulations. Is this one that little bit extra sweet being here in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, it is. This one hits close to home. Over the winter here, I lost my grandfather, and this was a place that me and him went to together all the times. And I know he was there watching for me there in turn 3. Or up above, wherever he may be.
Obviously, this one very emotionally charged for you. Knowing that, did you spend some extra time this week practicing, or did you already pretty much know this place like the back of your hand?
It's just like you said, back of the hand. I ran the midget race here that Bootleg hosts here at 7 o'clock Eastern, and that was pretty much my warm-up here. I ran the bottom there as well, and yeah, I've had many laps here. This is the best showing I had in the Pro Series, and a lot of emotional support and a lot of laps here at this place.
Now, at the early parts of this evening in the first heat, you did have a little bit of challenge. It looked like Davis almost had something for you. Was he making you sweat?
A little bit. I know Chris, he has the ability to run that bottom at certain tracks, and I knew that was a possibility going into the heat races there, and it was a little difficult. I didn't want to come down on him too much in the coming out of the corners, because I was doing a little bit of a cut down, but once I got by him, I was able to run a little bit more comfortably, and once we got to the feature, I stuck to the bottom.
Well, I'm sure the virtual fans in turn 3 are also whooping and hollering for you right now. Anybody you'd like to thank for today's victory?
Of course, Fistful of Bourbon, Winners Get Whiskey Baby, General Tire, Polaris RZR, Vision Wheel, Rated Industries, Dirtfish, JSP XTV Axles, Gibson Performance, Exhaust, Acronis, Sant Racing Fabrications, 07 Designs, Chris Leone Motorsport Drop, Law, and all the guys at Bootleg that put this thing on, you guys for doing the broadcast, family that roots me on downstairs, and a special thank you for my grandfather for making me love this place.
Wonderful thoughts there from Brandon Proudfoot, our victor here at Williams Grove. And that brings us to our second place finisher, Billy Northcutt. I can't wait to hear this interview, honestly, because of that run back to the front.
Yeah, Billy, you fell back at the start of the race and then opening green flag, and then after the final restart, you all of a sudden popped out to the top lane and made it work like a dream. Talk to me about your mentality on the restart and what helped you find that speed.
Oh man, I tell you what, that was a pretty darn exciting race there, wasn't it? I mean, I started up top and I was looser than heck on the first lap and fell back. And then I tried to get down low, but Chris and Steven had the momentum on the bottom, and they didn't like move me or push me out of the way, but I was kind of just in the way. And at this track, if you try to slam your brakes for somebody in front of you that's going slower, you end up spinning yourself for getting turned. So I decided to just kind of fall back to fifth and reevaluate from there. being patient's a really important thing in racing in real life, and especially on this game, and because you never know what's going to happen. But at the end, I mean, I was just kind of hanging out in fifth, and sixth place was a good ways behind me. We had kind of broke loose, so I was like, now I have nothing to lose, so I'm going to check the top out. And I ran it one lap before that last caution, and I was like, okay, all right, let's go. I was like hoping that nobody saw me do it behind them, and on that restart, I just sent it up there and hoped that it would stick. I mean, you guys have watched me for a few races here. I'm not afraid to try to win. I don't love to settle. I'm a clean driver. I won't run into anybody, but I'll risk it for the biscuit and try to put on a show for my family that's watching. They all watch me and support me a lot.
Well, and I'd say well-founded support based after a run like that. And, you know, looked like that battle with Steven and JR and really going in there, it just took absolute guts. Especially, we had seen Steven try to, I don't want to say cut you off because that's the wrong term, but, you know, run up and cover that high line in the exit of the corner. Looked like he got a little pigeonholed here and there, but coming out of four, it looked like you had the maximum momentum. Were you worried Steven was going to throw one up and you were going to have to sort of, you know, feather the throttle a little bit to hold it off, or was it just sort of a gun it and pray coming off the corner?
Oh, I mean, it's a little bit of both. I mean, Steven's a great guy. I can already tell. I mean, I haven't raced in here for that many races, but Steven's a good person and a good driver, and I knew that he knew where I was. Every time he was sliding up, he was clear. He never did cut me off. The one time that I got a little bit bigger of a run, he stayed down there and left me the room. So I had full confidence that he knew what he was doing and that I knew what I was doing. When he would pull up there, like I told him after the race, you know, I just kept my foot in it and would basically bump draft him down the straightaways because I didn't feel like checking up, and I knew that it wouldn't wreck him since we were squared up down the straightaways there. If it would have been on just a quarter of his back bumper, I might have had enough momentum to where we would have problems, but he was sliding up perfectly in front of me like we were at Daytona, so I just gave him the bump and just kept rolling up there.
Well, obviously, it looks like kind of running that counter line may be a advantage of yours. Only a couple races to go left in this season, but any you're looking forward to in particular? Anything that you could maybe throw another one of these challenging different lines on us and give us a good surprise?
Oh man, you know, this season, I've talked a lot to my teammates and everything about tracks that I'm just not very good at, and it's like basically 3 of the 4 tracks that we started this season with. Eldora, I hate how you have to almost wall ride there, and it's just not fun. Weedsport and Kokomo, seems like most leagues don't run those because they are challenging and have a lot of caution, so I just haven't ran those tracks very much. Pretty much all the rest of the tracks I have 10 times more experience in those tracks, so I'm looking to try to finish the whole rest of the season strong and try to challenge Brandon. He's so dang good though. I mean, he's in practice, in the warm-up, he was like 3/10 faster than any of us. I thought I was doing all right, and then I looked at the times and I'm like, dang. I mean, if I can end up beating him in a race, I'm gonna probably tear up a little because he's somebody to look up to on this game for sure. But I definitely think there's some tracks on the schedule left that I can at least give him a run for his money. But there's 5 or 6 guys in this league that are just as fast as me. This is a lot tougher league than people may think on the outside looking in, and I'm really happy to be in it. And the entire league races clean and has respect for each other, and it's pretty awesome.
Well, it's certainly fun to watch. And Billy, I can tell you as somebody who does not quite have the ability that you do in one of these dirt cars, I've been in that position way too many times of going, oh, I think this is good. And then looking at the timing and scoring and going, no. But before we let you go tonight, man, anybody you need to thank?
Oh, yeah, I probably have the biggest support system on all of iRacing. My mother-in-law, she pays for a lot of stuff that we do on iRacing. She pays for broadcasts in some of our other leagues and different things. She helped sponsor this one as well for your guys' broadcast. She's Viv's Retail Liquor, just Viv on Facebook. She watches every race I ever do as if I'm racing in real life, and that's really awesome. And then I got my dad and my wife upstairs right now watching on the big screen while I race downstairs. And if I start doing good, I can hear him pounding on the floor up there, getting all jazzed up. It gets my blood pressure up, makes me want to just go for it and go for broke. It motivates me. I got Dirt Panda as our race team. I got 5 teammates that are just brothers to me. They mean the world to me. They help me get better all the time, and that's pretty awesome. I want to thank you guys for the broadcast. And I don't know, I'm probably forgetting some stuff because I'm pretty wound up from that racing.
Well, I can understand why. Billy, congratulations again on a well-deserved second place.
Hey, thanks, man. And the only thing I forgot, I didn't forget, but I was afraid I was going to cry. But this is a podium that I got for my mom. My number is Joy now. We lost her last month unexpectedly, and I'm just out here trying to honor her. I changed my number to her name, and we're sending it out here for her.
I love that, my friend. I love that a lot. Thank you again, and congratulations.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
And now Joe Peak is caught up with our third place driver, J.R. Shepard.
Indeed, and JR was another one of those drivers that was in the midst of what is one of the fiercest battles we saw all night. That final restart all the way to the checkered flag, JR, that had to get your blood pressure going.
Yeah, it wasn't what I wanted, but I just couldn't get into the right position to make a pass there at the end. Really was hoping we'd have a caution-free race, but I knew better being at Williams Grove.
Now, do you have any idea what happened at the end with Steven Spies? Because from our perspective, it looked like he checked up to the line to let you by. Did he tell you afterwards if that was intentional or not?
Yeah, I'm sure it's intentional. He didn't say anything. I had a run on him a few times, and I just couldn't get my nose positioned. And why he did that, I'm not sure, because I was probably about a 4th or 5th place car tonight.
Oh, so that's a mystery we'll have to try and talk to him about later. Regardless, next round has its own perils. We go from the Martinsville of tracks to sort of the Oxford of dirt tracks without a wall around the outside of Lernerville. How do you feel about that one?
I enjoy that track. It's definitely tough. The preferred groove's right up to the top of the track, and of course you got nothing as a safety net to keep you inside the track if you go over that cushion. So I enjoy it, but we'll have to see. It's going to be a hard-fought race, and have to have a good track position on restarts.
Absolutely. Well, again, congratulations on a podium, and hope to see you next week at Lernerville.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys. Thank you.
That was J.R. Shepard, third place finisher here today for round 5 of the Bootleg Racing League Dirt Street Stock Series. And that's going to wrap us up. So we give a big thank you to the Bootleg Series for bringing us back for another season of coverage. But also, we want to thank the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Her Bandcamp is there at the bottom. And thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Our social media outlets include Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, make sure and check out our merchandise store, which is simply gsrc.storeenvy.com. We got a link in the description below if you just want to click that to make it easy. But while you're down there, make sure and hit the big red subscribe button before you leave the page so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As we mentioned, we're popping over to Lernerville. That'll be Friday, February 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on your screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.